You are listening to the Freedom Podcast with Van Moody. Our desire is that you begin to live in freedom every day. Freedom in your mind, freedom in your finances, freedom from the external pressures of life. Prepare to be transformed as we seek to be free, mind, body, and soul. Let's get started.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us on this incredible episode of the Freedom Podcast. We, on this podcast, cover a variety of topics that are significant for your best life, a life of hope, a life of healing, a life of freedom in every aspect of your life. This is why one of the topics that we cover every single month on the Freedom Podcast is financial freedom. It is absolutely impossible for you to live your very best life, a life of freedom, purpose, and fulfillment without dealing with the topic of financial freedom. And that's a big topic. That's why I am so grateful every single month to be joined with my co-host from the most, all the way from LA, Pastor George B. Thompson, the money maven. He's not only a pastor, he is an incredible financial planner and money guru. And so would you help me welcome my co-host all the way from LA? George, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing awesome. Hello, family. This is going to be an awesome episode.
Yeah, super excited. I'm actually coming to you guys actually live from the campus of IMG Academy. I'm here as we're recording this podcast because on tonight, my son's season kicks off. And so I'm excited because tonight he will play in his very first game as a part of being on one of the top teams down here at IMG. So definitely send up prayers for him and prayers for this season. So it's exciting. And this has been a unique journey for us. So I'm taking time in this incredible and full day for us to get this important podcast taped because, George, we are now looking to finish the year strong. It's right. Amazing that the year has flown by because, man, it feels like just yesterday was January. But we're approaching the end of the year. And I think the number one question for a lot of people that they should be thinking about financially is how do we finish the year strong? A lot of people open the year up with goals, with kind of things that they wanted to accomplish financially. And we spend a lot of time on our podcast talking about what are some of those critical things that they ought to be doing. But now it's time for us to prepare to finish the year strong so that we can go into 2025 really with the wind at our back. And so we want to get into that in today's episode. And by way of kind of a biblical foundation, you know, the thing that came to mind, George, was the word of God in Proverbs 29 and verse 17 or 18, actually, where it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. I love that. And it talks about in certain translations say where there's no revelation, people cast off restraint. But blessed is he who keeps the law. I like the version that says where there is no vision, the people perish. But blessed is he who keeps the law, because you need a vision for your finances. You need a vision for your family. You need a vision. And we've talked about this even as it relates to wealth creation and legacy building. But it keeps coming back to that notion of what is the vision? What is the plan? And if there is no vision, if there is no plan, then the Bible is very clear that people perish. And that's the same thing financially. A lot of individuals struggle unnecessarily financially because they don't have a plan. Or if they have a plan, they don't work the plan. Or if they are working the plan, they don't edit the plan. Or they don't revisit how are they doing in the execution of the plan. And that's really what we want to lean into in today's episode. How are you doing this year? But then, okay, as we prepare to come to the end of the year, what are the most important things? Maybe the top five, we may not get to all five, but what are the top, at least, things that you need to be doing so that you can finish this year strong financially and be ready to move into the new year? So, George, kick us off, man.
Gotcha. So, hey, first of all, everybody give me a high five. That means 5 because we're going to shoot for 5 today. But you guys know we had the Olympics this year. And when people are running in track, right, we run a race. You know, I ministered a sermon actually at a church in Birmingham where I said we all run a race, run in such a way that we get the prize. So If you look at how you finish in track, you know the people that lean in on the tape and you know how your son is playing. I have some sons who were playing flag football the other day, and I was teaching them how to run so they can get to catch the ball so they can get in the end zone. You have to run in such a way. So then why are we talking about this? Let's look at how we can run in such a way that we finish this year strong. So I'll just start off right now with number one. Let's look at your budget, your
Yeah.
spending, and your giving. If you know, and a lot of times when I teach in my books, I call it money in motion. So whenever you bring in money, there's always, it goes in three categories. It goes into one, your budget, like how you spend.
Hmm.
And then two, it goes into debt, the debt you may be paying. And then third, it can also, which we also want that to be first, but it is your prosperity. And so certain things. So that's how you give. That's how you put into your 401k. That's how you put in towards your retirement. So the first thing you want to do is look at your budget. So now if we do that, okay, everybody, wait, pay attention. Look at your budget. How's it going so far this year? Have you been able to stay on your budget? And then if you don't have a budget, you say, hey, let's start setting that up so
Yeah.
we can finish this year strong by first having a budget so that we have that. That's one part of it. But then I go back to the second part of it is this. How much of your budget is going towards debt? Because I'm just letting you know right now, these 5 things we want to do, because we actually want to start setting up for 2025, is that how are we paying down our debt?
Yes.
Obviously we teach classes, right? They're called Do Good, GOOD. That stands
Get
for
out of
Get
debt.
Out of Debt.
Yeah.
All right. So then if if our entire paycheck is going toward the monthly bills and paying off our debt, we're actually not building. So actually the first thing that we want to do first is we also look at our giving. So I'm sure, we're tithing and then we're also giving, and we're coming into a lot of times this holiday time. We want to make sure that we're continuing to do everything, and it's always divided into those three areas. So it's first is that our giving, and then I'm going to say prosperity dollars, meaning that you start putting into your 401k, your retirement, or your towards wealth building account. So it's 10% that you tithe. Then you also have giving, and then you have what you're saving for yourself, right? You're investing. Term say vesting. Then you have your budgetary, just your monthly bills, things like that.
Hmm.
Then you have your debts, what you're paying on your debts, and our goal is to pay off our debts
Yeah.
and then build more in the area of prosperity. That is number one.
Hey, George, let me jump in here for a second because, I think we've made an assumption that our current listeners have been with us throughout the year
Yep.
and they've been implementing the things that we've been talking about. Now, we've been like dropping gems and giving nuggets. And my hope and prayer is that all of our listeners have been implementing these things. But I really feel like we should pause here and say to those who don't have a budget, you know, it's not too late for you to say, let's go ahead and start that. There are a lot of people that are flying by the seat of their pants when it comes
Right.
to their money. And one of the things that we always say is that a budget is telling your money where to go instead of waking
Right.
up one day and wondering where it went. Okay.
Right.
And so if you have not been following a budget this year, this is a great time for you to lay out a budget, because without a budget, you can't really instruct your dollars towards those areas that George just talked about. You can't intentionally instruct your dollars towards giving and tithing. You can't instruct those dollars towards saving and even debt reduction. So I want to stress that for someone that's listening to this podcast or watching this, because when we go into the holidays, that is a really precarious time for a lot of people, because
Right.
oftentimes we get swept up in the emotions. You know what's really interesting, George? I
Yes.
remember, and you probably remember a time when Black Friday used to start on the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Right.
But now we're in a culture
Yep.
that, they started running Black Friday commercials even before Halloween,
Right.
right? Before October 31st. And so our culture is now pushing people, spend, spend, spend. We emotionally sometimes get, pushed to buy these Christmas gifts and do
Right.
this and do that for the holidays. And so if you don't have a budget that's intentionally laid out
Right.
towards, giving, tithing, saving, paying your bills, and debt reduction,
Right.
this is the time that budgets get blown out of the water if you have one. This is
Right.
also the time, if you don't have a budget, that you get deeper and deeper and deeper in the hole. And so one
Right.
of the most important things that I want to stress out of what George just said is if you don't have a budget, sit down and do it before you get right into the throes of the holidays. Number one, should you take that Thanksgiving trip? what's the implication of it, right? And
Right.
if you sit down and look at the budget and the budget doesn't allow for that, then make those modifications. It is not wise for you to make decisions that are going to put you further behind the eight ball, because
Right.
what we really want to be doing is making some very intentional moves that are going to set you up for success
Right.
moving into 25 and beyond. So
Right.
these are just some things that I want to stress. Or if you have a budget and you're looking at the budget and there's not enough margin for you to save, there's not enough margin for you to pay down additional debt, maybe you need to shift some of those holiday plans. I
Right.
promise you
Okay.
that if your kids don't get all of the gifts, they're going to be fine, right? The
We gonna
main
tell them.
gift,
That's one.
yeah, the main gift that you can give them is a legacy of wealth creation. So I just wanted to
Yep.
share that. George, I know you want to jump in and give a
Right.
little bit more on that.
No, I love it. By the way, you just did number three. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch our order right now. Okay. So
All
I'm gonna
right.
go to number two. But first of all, let's go back to what Pastor Van said. Was he said prioritize your money. That's what we talk about,
Yes.
prioritizing it. So
Yes.
every dollar has a place where it's going. Just like
Yep.
how like how he just said he's in Florida. So when he flew, he had his bags had a destination on them. So where they were going. Your finances have to have a destination, and that destination is glorifying God and building generational wealth. So how much of that is happening? So now I'm going to move to number two. Number two is
Yeah.
that we want to have a holiday spending plan for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay. All right. One disclaimer before I start talking about this, and I want you to jump in afterwards. I want to make a claim. I am the world's greatest parent, not dad, at one third the price. So you guys are
Yeah.
saying, man, prove it to us. Okay, I'm gonna prove it to you. So you know how you had a voting plan, like how you went down, you said, this is who's president. Then also, I live in Los Angeles. We did a voter education and registration event.
Yep.
Dr. I don't know if you heard of it. It was very popular. All these measures and propositions and all these things, and went over them, and just all of the information we went over. You want to have that exact same thing for Thanksgiving. So
Hmm.
Thanksgiving, what we do for Thanksgiving is I cater it. We have someone that can cook. As they say, they put their foot in it. But this year I'm traveling to Kansas City to go visit our relatives. And we're going to do that. So what are we doing? So I'll let you know. Then, by the way, I need a fist bump at the end, you guys. So just let you guys know. Remember, world's greatest parent, one third the price. So first of all, I'm cashing in frequent flyer miles for my kids to fly. But I'm paying for my ticket and my wife, so we get the points and the miles, right? And then we're staying with relatives, right? Instead of paying
Hmm.
hotels, all these different things. So anyway, I just want everybody to know I'm not plugging Costco, but I went and I bought air mattresses and I had them sent to their house already. And that's very inexpensive. So you see how I'm already pre-planning certain things. So they
Yep.
already have them. So then we're
Yep.
that. If you look at how much I would spend just on food, on these things like that, I'm coming and then I come with gifts. And
No,
then I'm going to leave
absolutely.
them there for them. So now
Hmm.
it costs a couple of dollars for that. So then wouldn't it be great if someone came in and they left furniture with you and they left these things right there for you? So you understand that's part of my see, I clap my hands sometimes. So I get excited about what I'm going to say. See, I already planned out how much this is going to be financially. So then
Yep.
when we had our family meeting, which is called Kitchen Table Conversations, and by the way, when we're saying these things, these are things we talked about during the year. So also when you're watching this podcast, just kind of click through other ones that we've done. And we talked about these. So Kitchen Table Conversations is when you sit down with your family and you discuss what's going to happen. So I said, hey, you guys, we're going to Kansas City. And then we found people. And then we may go to a game, also a football game during that time, from people who came to games when they're out here in LA. So I'm swapping a game with someone.
Yep.
So I'm not paying anything more. And I'm going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs game than we were before. And then I get to bring my sons. And then, right, because I'm sorry, I just want to remind you again, I'm the world greatest parent at one third the price, right? So I'm gonna go to the game. They already have the parking, everything and
Yep.
doing. So do you see this? I'm having a great experience, but I'm not spending all of that
Yep.
same way. So you
Yep.
got you can have just as much fun, but then look at how you can use resources that are available to you to make things and savings. So you want to have a holiday plan and then a Christmas plan. I'm gonna kick
Yep.
it back to you, but then I made up another one. So I got one. I want to come back to what we're going to buy people for Christmas instead of the toys. I want to come back to you and talk to you about how we're going to build generational wealth.
The poorest person on earth is the person without faith. Humanity has been led to a critical crossroad, wondering if there is an alternative to the world as we have made it. In essence, a lot of people have simply stopped believing in anything or anyone. They have simply lost their faith in faith. While it is absolutely tragic to lose a job, to lose a spouse, to lose a child or home or business, these are not the greatest losses one can experience. The greatest loss in life is the loss of belief. When one loses the ability to believe, one loses both faith and hope. When hope is lost, purpose is canceled, and life is robbed of meaning. Belief is the raw material required for commitment, persistence, and faithfulness. No man or woman can live beyond their belief, for without faith, all hope is lost. As a person whose life has been radically transformed by genuine faith, Dr. Van Moody has a passion for helping people understand what real biblical faith is and why it's so important. If our belief is gone, our life shrinks because possibilities are limited and our expectations are low. Believe is a must-read for anyone wanting to understand real biblical faith in order to believe big and live a life full of endless possibilities and limitless opportunities. Visit vanmoody.org or anywhere books are sold to get your copy today.
Yeah, George, it's interesting. One of the things that you mentioned is really how we travel as well. Our son is in Florida at a boarding school for basketball, and so we come back and forth for his games now. And one of the things that we do, because when you start calculating airline cost and hotel cost, I mean, you will quickly blow your budget. And so we have friends who have a home here, and they have a home in Atlanta, and we worked it out where when we're in Florida, we're able to stay at their home for free. And then, when they come to Birmingham, we open our home to them for free.
Yeah.
So, we've worked on a cost saving measure. And then, I'm able to get some cheap plane tickets. There's a direct flight from Birmingham to Southwest that's extremely inexpensive. I
Right.
don't have to be in business or first class or anything of that nature. I could be at the back of the plane because, it's an hour flight. So I can get an hour flight, and then I use my points to get a rental car for, very little money, or I use our friend's car, and we're able to come back and forth and be present at our son's games, but we're able to do it at, I don't know if it's a 1/3 of the price, it may be at
Yeah.
half of the price,
Right.
right,
Right.
of what we would spend. Actually, I think it's far less than half of what we would spend if we were doing it the regular way. So, the fact that George and I are sharing these things with you all, I know for some people they say, well, that's crazy or that's corny, or somebody may say, I don't want to do that. But here's the point. This is the intentionality of us saving. This is the intentionality of us saying that we want our dollars to glorify God and create legacy. And making those decisions then, have to reflect the ultimate goal. And these are the decisions that we've made that some people may laugh at. But once again, we have a goal in mind, and we're sharing this with you because we want you to be intentional in thinking about those things. A lot of individuals don't. A lot of individuals say, hey, I'm making the money, so I ought to be able to go on the cruise for Thanksgiving. Okay, well, if you're going to go on the cruise for Thanksgiving, then you're going to turn around and spend a whole bunch of money for Christmas. What does that do to your budget? What does that do to your legacy building plan? What does that do to your ability to create wealth and continue to create wealth? And these are all of the questions and conversations that you've got to have around the kitchen table with your spouse and with your kids so that they understand this is why we're doing X. There are a
Right.
lot of moves that we're making as a family because we have a goal in mind. And so we bring the kids around the table and say, okay, here are the moves we're making. This is why we're making these moves, because this is what this is ultimately going to allow us to do. So when we start talking about, spending, particularly going into the holidays and looking at your budget, they're telling you this for a reason. So George, how are you going to handle
Right.
Christmas, your Christmas gifts,
Right.
man?
And we do Christmas. We're gonna handle Christmas, but I want to come back to what you said though. Is that do you see how you're making sacrifices
Yes.
that are short term to have a long term gain?
Yes.
So on future ones, but I'll say it even now, is that one of the goals that we have is we sat down our kitchen table conversations. My kids want to travel overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you know this, but so the world will know now. We're going to Africa. I'm taking my kids to Africa so they can be also with that, and also they'll be with you
Yeah,
we'll all
yeah,
be
because
together. So right,
right,
and we're doing that.
we're leading that
So
trip to Ghana, right?
right,
That trip
Ghana.
to
So wait,
Ghana
we're
is going to
going.
be
So
amazing.
so
Yep,
so so now this is good. Now, by the way, I live in California. So we took a vacation. We're taking these vacations. So we took one down in San Diego where I sat down and we did this and we got an Airbnb and we ran this whole thing where I did it and it was very inexpensive vacation because I said, you guys, we're not going to do two big ones. Let's do this one shorter so we can take one longer.
yep,
And the same, do you see what does everybody see what I'm doing? I'm teaching my kids generational wealth. I'm teaching them how to make sacrifices
yep,
now that have
yep.
long-term gains. And believe it or not,